Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. You can feel free to turn on your cameras or leave them off. I do love seeing your smiling faces as well. So good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us today to talk about the Sustainability Fellowship Program here at the University of New Hampshire. We are thrilled about the interest we have in the program, so we're going to dive right in. There's a lot to talk about today. So here you can see our agenda. I'm especially excited because we have some fellowship alumni here with us today to speak about their experience. So you'll have time to hear from them and then ask questions from them as well. But we do have a lot of material to get through. So it'll take us about 40 minutes to get through the material, and then we'll open it up to questions until 3 p.m. So before we get started, I just want to let you know that we are recording this webinar and we'll have it up on our website soon after. So with that, let's get started. So you'll be hearing from several of us today. So just nice introduction, nice to meet you. I'm Alexis Dwyer. I coordinate the Sustainability Fellows Program. The program is made possible and run by an entire team of people, and some of them are here today. Today, behind the scenes, we have Faina Bucher, the director of Changemaker Collaborative. She'll be helping us with some of the questions. And then in addition, you'll get to hear from 3 alumni of the fellowship, including Jovev, who also serves as an advisor to the Sustainability Fellowship. And then we'll get to hear from Clara Richards and Joe Field, both alums from this past summer. So getting to know UNH a little bit more, UNH is a national leader in sustainability. This year, we are celebrating the 25th anniversary of the UNH Sustainability Institute. And UNH is super proud of being one of only 10 schools in the US to achieve Platinum Stars rating from the Association of Advancement in Higher Education. In the top 10 of the coolest schools of 2021 by the Sierra Club, in the top 10 environmentally friendly college campuses, and UNH students really drive sustainability leadership by being involved in the Changemaker Collaborative, which brings together students, faculty, staff, businesses, nonprofits, and government agencies committed to advancing social change for the good of all. So oftentimes we get asked, what is sustainability all about? And that is a great question. Maybe you're not directly studying sustainability, but most likely you might be involved, right? Because UNH aligns sustainability with the 17 UN Sustainability Development Goals, which you can see here. And so thus that's working in many different areas and disciplines to advance these goals. And of course, these goals are all interconnected as well. So many of the ways we advance the SDGs is through the Changemaker Collaborative. And especially if you are a UNH student who's on here today, I just wanted to share a little bit about the Changemaker Collaborative and some of our programs. The Changemaker Collaborative supports the next generation of skilled, courageous, and confident leaders through real-world experiences in the tools of public policy and business. While helping community partners advance their sustainability initiatives, the students get this experience. So how does the Changemaker Collaborative achieve all of this? It's through these variety of programs, which you see listed on the screen. So this includes the Social Venture Innovation Challenge, the Be Impact Clinic, Semester in the City, and the Sustainability Fellowship. So definitely check out the UNH Changemaker Collaborative online to find out more if you're interested in getting involved. So of course, today we're here to talk about the Sustainability Fellowship. So the fellowship is all about matching amazing students or post-baccalaureates like all of you with excellent organizations that are doing important work in sustainability. So we set the stage with well thought out and planned projects in a collaborative atmosphere. And in turn, our goal is to build resilient communities and a resilient world. We have 3 main goals with the fellowship, the first being making an impact. These projects are designed to get something done and sustain the organization or the company into the future, which creates an impact on the communities and the region that you're working in. Second, we hope to create an immersive and high-quality learning experience for all of you, possibly even career-launching experiences for fellows who are interested in engaging in sustainability careers. And third, these projects in the summer cohorts come together to be a part of our network of sustainability professionals who are working and learning together throughout the summer and throughout the rest of their careers. So that's an overview of the program. Let's go into it a bit further and discuss what sets this opportunity apart from other possible internships. So what sets the student experience apart, or I should say the fellowship experience apart, is that you would not only be working as an intern or as a fellow at one organization, but you'll be a part of a bigger program that has multiple additional advantages and assets. First of all, we design the projects so that you can own them. You'll come in and take responsibility of the project and have autonomy and ownership over your work. The projects are also designed to have tangible outcomes. Thus, at the end of your summer, you will have accomplished a project that you'll be able to add to your portfolio and feel that strong sense of accomplishment for knowing that this is what you did with your summer and it is important work. You'll also be a part of a cohort of fellows working on different projects at different types of organizations. Thus, there will be the opportunity for cross-pollination of ideas and resources, and the advantage to learn about the experience of fellows who are working on all different types of sustainability projects. So it really can give you a nice broad view of all the possibilities within the realm of careers in sustainability all in one summer. As mentioned earlier about the network that you'll be joining, the network is an advantage in the summer and will be a network for your future as well. You'll be able to rely on the active network for support, mentorship, and for information and resources. The network is made up of all the organizations that we work with and the alumni that we have been through the fellowship program with. Additionally, not only will you have your fellows with you during the summer, but you'll also have the fellowship team here at UNH. There's a whole professional development component of the program that is in addition to your experience with your host organization. You'll have the chance to participate in training, practice your skills, and engage in shared learning with your peers. And as noted here, this is a paid opportunity. This has been an important part of the program. We really believe you should be compensated for your work and the skills you bring to the table. And finally, these projects are designed, like we've already mentioned before, so that you are making an impact. You spend the summer making a difference with these organizations and working on a project that will create lasting change. So what does the summer itself look like? You'll be primarily focused on one fellowship project at one host organization during the summer. You may be in person with the organization, working remotely, or in a hybrid model of in-person and remote, depending on the project. You'll be working on a day-to-day basis with your host organization. And then at the same time, there are program activities organized by UNH that you will also participate in. Those activities are designed to set the stage for collaborating with the other fellows during the summer, to offer you support, and to help you develop your skills throughout the summer and then beyond. Some of the highlights that we start the summer off with is a 2-day orientation where you get the chance to know all the other fellows, all of us at UNH, the advisors, and other organizations and mentors, as well as learn a little bit about the other projects that will be going on over the summer. This 2-day orientation is really important as it lays the foundation for that collaboration that we've talked about and then really launches you into the summer. And then a few weeks later, we're going to have on June 21st and 22nd, an in-person gathering to connect once again and kind of serve as an in-person launch to make sure that you have the resources, proper plan, and tools in place to complete your summer projects. So during the summer, there's also some weekly activities that we have that take place. You'll meet with a small group of fellows in an advisory group. So there'll be that larger group of fellows throughout the whole summer, and then that smaller group that you'll be meeting with weekly. These are fellows who are working on projects that will be related to yours in some way. And there'll be a helpful sounding board, a place to work out issues and talk to others about the work that you're doing. And each of the advisory groups they have 2 advisors who help guide them throughout the summer as well. We also have an alumni webinar series. So you'll get to hear from professionals who have been fellows or alumni of UNH who are now working in the field in different areas of sustainability. That's one of the highlights and something that I love seeing take place across the summer. And then at the end of the fellowship, we have the final presentations, of course, to showcase the amazing work you have completed. So those are just some of the highlights of the activities that happen on the program side to supplement and go along with your fellowship project. The fellowship is actually entering its 15th year, with this summer being the 16th cohort. So as you can imagine, we've had the time to create thoughtful and supportive programming to create this unique fellowship experience. So this is also a good time to point out that the fellowships are a full-time effort. So we encourage you, if you're thinking about doing this, to make sure you are available to focus on a fellowship basically full-time for the summer. So we kind of already touched on this, but we get the question a lot, so I want to address it. Are the fellowships fully in person? So some are in person, some are fully remote, and some are a hybrid model. Thus, for some, you may have to relocate, and others you may not have to relocate. When the position descriptions are released, please look for the specific working model that will be used for the project you are applying for. Schedule-wise, most often schedules are worked out between the fellow and the host organization. So thus be aware of that. If you're remote, to think about if you have a time zone difference with your organization. But once again, this is something you'll work out with the fellow, between the fellow and the host. In terms of setup, if you are remote, you'll just want to have access to these items you see here on the slide. But if you have any barriers to this, we'll consider requests for assistance because we don't want any of this to be a hindrance. So that's kind of a quick glimpse and highlights of the fellowship program and what the summer will look like. So today we're so excited. Like I mentioned earlier, we have 3 fellow alumni with us. So many thanks for all of them for joining us today to give us a better glimpse into the fellowship experience firsthand. And so today we'll start with Joe. Many thanks, Joe, for kicking us off.
Thanks, Alexis. It's good to see you. It feels like it's been a really long time since summer, so nice to be back on Zoom with you. Yeah, I guess I'll just give an overview of the project that I did. So this past summer, I worked with the Union of Concerned Scientists, and I actually worked alongside another fellow who is not here today. But essentially, our project, we conducted an assessment of climate action plans within each of the New England states to essentially assess how well each state was building its climate resilience. So it was a super cool project. We, once the summer wrapped up, had a couple more bits that we wanted to do with them. So we delivered a couple of presentations to the network, to UCS, and some of their partners as well as some blog posts, media interviews. So it's still ongoing, which I love because I absolutely love this project, and I'm super excited about that. What else can I say? The project was fully remote in our case. I personally really enjoy remote working. I think since the pandemic, I got very used to it. So that worked really well for me. And we basically, with the 2 of us plus our mentor, we kind of managed that by having kind of weekly check-ins with each other. The other fellow, Miriam, and I would kind of have check-ins with each other every day, just to make sure we knew what each of us were doing. And I think that was really helpful when we were working remotely on this project, to make sure that we were working together and all on the same page, which was great. And I think one of the things that I really loved about the fellowship as a whole was the fact that we had advisory groups. So every week we would meet with a small group of fellows on different projects that were kind of in a similar area, and we'd kind of catch up with each other. If we had any concerns or any questions for the group, it was just a really nice opportunity to check in with some other folks, and kind of pick their brains on things, see if they had any ideas of things that we could do going forward. So I really loved that aspect of the fellowship, and I would highly, highly recommend really leaning into your peers. If you do go ahead with becoming a fellow this summer, I would say absolutely lean into those connections, because that is something that I think is so special about this fellowship in particular. I think that's all for now, but I'm happy to answer
Awesome.
questions too.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Joe. That was perfect. It is so fun to see you. It's so fun. I love seeing my fellows all over the summer, all across the summer. So I've missed them. So we're going to hold questions until the end. Joe, can you stay until the end?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Perfect. I just want to make sure that we hear from everyone and we hear about the rest of the program, that we have information, and then we answer questions. So awesome. Thank you so much. So, oops, did I skip? No, perfect. So now we have Claire Richards. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, yes, thank you, Alexis. It's nice to see you. And I know Faina's in here somewhere in Dovev, so hi to both of you as well. This past summer, I was able to work with Scrap for my fellowship, which was a project working on mainly client outreach and data development. So that put me in the data analytics advisory group. As Joe mentioned, it was really super beneficial to have a group of other students as well as professionals from UNH who are well versed in that area to be able to kind of debrief with on a weekly basis. But working with Scrap, I can kind of give you a background on what they do. It's a climate tech startup who run a software that basically aligns recycling guidances with materials based on your general location. And so that's something that a lot of people don't know is a huge problem, but recycling guidance or the packaging and what you see on it in terms of how to recycle it doesn't always align with how your town would accept recycling or need you to be recycling correctly. And so that leads to a lot of the contamination that we see of waste. And so my project was a lot of outreach to clients to gather this data that's needed to power the solution and bring it into the software that they have. And also as a startup, it was a really great experience for me to be able to see how that kind of environment works, because it's a lot different than working in kind of a corporate atmosphere. Whereas in a startup, a lot of it is pivoting and being flexible. And so from the fellowship standpoint of having a project that you're working on, it was a really interesting and challenging, but in a good way, atmosphere to be working in, to be able to kind of work through what we thought to expect in the summertime, but then halfway through or so, be able to pivot and kind of be flexible with that project in order to have the greatest impact possible. And I can say that I'm now still working with my mentor from the summertime in the Bee Impact Clinic, which Alexis mentioned earlier. So I have regular updates on the success that they're seeing. And it's really fun to see projects that I kind of watched grow from the ground up and was able to assist in, finally having success on the flip side of that. But also definitely, as Joe mentioned as well, having that network of people that genuinely care about sustainability and have a common goal of making that positive impact has been really great. I know a lot of people that I still see in class now, because we all have that same interest in sustainability, will work on projects together because we were able to get to know each other over the course of the fellowship. And yeah, it's just been a really great and interesting kind of full circle moment to still be at UNH and still be involved in sustainability and be able to have that network carry through my time here.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Clara. I love hearing it. And I love hearing how you're still involved with Scrap through the Bee Impact Clinic. So incredible. I know that the work that both Joe and Clara did there, post orgs could not say enough about the amount of support that you all provided to them, because it really is unique in that you take ownership of that and move it forward. And so that's really awesome that Joe and her other fellow that was with UCS, Miriam, have continued with presentations for UCS, because that's important. It's important work that they've helped move forward, and they want to hear you speak on that. And then Claire, being able to see the results of some of that work that you worked on this summer is amazing. All right, thank you. So now we have an extra special fellow alumni with us, because it's Dovev. He's an older alumni, 2008, but the incredible thing is that he's an assistant dean for graduate student affairs and assistant vice provost for outreach and engagement at UNH. And he's also an integral part of the fellowship program, serving as an advisor over the summer and throughout the year. So I know Dovev's Zoom is acting up a little bit, but I believe he can unmute and at least share.
Yep. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So my apologies, I updated my Zoom and now it doesn't cooperate. So no video, but thanks for having me, and I'm glad to meet all of you, at least virtually, and just say a little bit about my experience. So I was actually in the very first cohort of fellows way back in 2008. And I was a doctoral student at that point, and it was just an incredible experience. Really, just it really echoes what Clara and Joe described about their work. My experience or my work as a fellow focused on looking at municipal-based climate initiatives. So I was looking at a bunch of cities and towns across the New England area and really trying to help assess and figure out what are the different innovative approaches that are being taken, kind of a living lab approach to things, and then also what are the really kind of common challenges and obstacles that those cities and towns were experiencing and trying to get things off the ground and do that climate work. So it was an amazing experience. It really set me up for success as a PhD student. It directly fed into at least 2 of my chapters. And then equally important, it led directly into work that I still do today with municipalities relative to sustainability and climate change. One of those things I do is I work to help to coordinate a network of municipalities across New England that are all working together on climate initiatives. So that was all really kind of teed up by my fellows experience 14 years ago. I'm also still doing a lot of community and engagement outreach as well. So I also have the pleasure of helping to coordinate the alumni initiative for the fellows. We've got a kind of a steering committee of fellows from across the number of different cohorts we've had over the years that work very closely together. We actually had our monthly meeting today that work to really keep the alumni together and lean into all the shared experience and the peer engagement that we can do as a group, because at this point, and Alexis, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we've had about 250 alums at this point come through the program, and now we're in positions as deans, directors of sustainability, working high up in industry, on and on and on. So it's just so many different ways that you get connected, both during your summer as a fellow and then well beyond. And we're excited to learn more about all of you and tell you more about the program. So Alexis, back to you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dovev. And I'm so glad that you highlighted that alumni network and how far it's grown as well, because we do have the recent alumni, but like you said, we do have those alumni who are now in those really amazing positions. And that's what we get to hear. We'd love to hear from recent alumni in our alumni webinars, so you kind of get that feel for where you're at. But then also we love to hear from some of those not so recent alumni. And that's what we coordinate during the summer alumni webinar series. All right, so let's get started, because now we're going to hopefully answer more of your questions. And like I said in the agenda, we're going to talk a little bit more about the projects, and then I'm going to talk about the application process itself, and then we'll go into your questions as well. So hopefully hearing from them kind of gives you a little bit about what it's like to be a fellow. I'm sure you have some questions brewing too after that. So let's dive into what the projects will be all about. So this summer, we're hoping to have about 35 projects to select from. Some of those projects will be for undergraduates and others will be for post-baccalaureates, which that's anyone who has graduated from undergrad as of May 2023. So when they are posted online, you'll look at the projects and they'll be split between those 2 different groups of the cohort. So projects fall each summer into different categories, such as the categories that you see here. These were our advisory groups. And within them, we have everything from cities and town municipalities to big companies and nonprofits in different locations of where the work is taking place. And then also we have the themes, and last year our themes were these as you see listed, and I imagine they'll fall somewhere similar within these themes every year. Of resilience, shared value and investing, community engagement, policy and education engagement, community research, and data analytics and GIS. So like we've said, we're kind of reviewing the applications right now, but they will generally fall into those categories. So in addition to there being different types of topics to work on, there's also a different focus for each type of work. So some of the projects are more technical academic research and analysis type projects. Some of them are more focused on policy and planning, implementing new programs, working with government, and others are focused on communication, which is all about reaching out to communities and engaging community members in the work. So in addition to there being the different themes, there's also different types of work you can engage in as a part of this program. So all that being said, with all the different fellowship opportunities, how do you go about deciding which project or projects are the right ones for you to apply for? A few things to think about. First, is the topic something that you're interested in, wanting to think and work more and learn more about? Is the type of work appealing to you? As mentioned earlier, some of them are more data analysis focused and more are community engaged focused. Do you like to talk to people all the time, or do you love to analyze data? So think about that type of work you'd like to be doing for 40 hours a week, because of course we want you to be enjoying and engaging in the work that you're doing. And perhaps you have goals for specific skills or an experience that you want to gain as a result of the work. So think about whether these projects are going to offer you that opportunity. Again, there are various types of organizations to work with. A lot of people come to the program specifically because they are looking to gain experience with a type of organization. So with 35 projects, hopefully we have that organization for you. So maybe it's a municipal government, or maybe it's a small nonprofit. There's so many different chances to work with different organizations that you'd like to have an experience with. And finally, of course, we want to think about your qualifications. If you want to be awarded a fellowship, please try to apply for one that you're well qualified for. So let's talk a little bit about eligibility. So there are those two different groups of cohorts of projects. One set of projects is designed specifically for undergraduates, and those are only eligible for undergraduates from UNH. So those will be students who have not finished their undergrad degrees program before the program starts this summer. So those are students who are currently first, second, and third year students. Then we also have the post-baccalaureate cohort. That's a separate set of projects that are specifically designed for students who will have finished their undergrad degrees before the program starts. So those projects are open to post-baccalaureates from UNH and post-baccalaureates across the US with a US university affiliation. For those projects, current seniors would be considered because they would have finished their degrees before the program starts, as well as recent graduates and grad students as well. We have plenty of master students and PhD students who apply like Joe. So as you'll note, the compensation is different for each of the group's projects, and that's because the students in the post-bac cohort will likely have more training and more experience and be able to offer their organizations a little bit higher level of work. And then, of course, each specific project has specific academic background, skills, and experience that those projects may be looking for, tied to the needs of the project. So once you figure out which projects you're interested in, you'll be sure to look at the actual requirements as well. I know that's a lot of information. If you have received the email today, if you signed up for this webinar before today, you received my email with the most recent frequently asked questions 2023 link. So that has a lot of frequently asked questions. A lot of them have to do with eligibility. So definitely check out that document. I think it's 4 or 5 pages long because we've combined all those FAQs over the past years. So hopefully if you look through that, your question can be answered. And thank you, Faina just chatted it into the meeting chat as well. So you can click and access it there. But after you go through that as well, feel free to always reach out to me if you have any additional questions. So let's make sure I didn't skip a slide. All right. So continuing on to what you should apply for, we like to think about what makes a great fellow. I love this picture here. This is from this past summer for our midterm at Alnova, when all of them came together for their midterm presentations. And these fellows really make me think of certain amazing qualities of passionate students with some specific attributes. So what are some attributes that you think might be looked for in a fellow? So maybe ideas like flexibility, willing to learn. Do you guys have ideas like that you want to put into the chat and share what you think, what attributes make a potential great fellow. Resilient, I love it. Integrity, oh my goodness, amazing. Curious, collaborative, those are really good. Thank you, everyone. So I've put some of them here, but I love that you guys have thought of some different ones that aren't up on the screen. All right, we'll keep going. So kind of think of those, like if that is you, if that speaks to you, then I bet this program is for you as well. So now moving on to the actual application itself. So the project descriptions will be posted on December 22nd, 2022. Fingers crossed. I'll email you out when they do get posted, but that is our goal date that we hope for. And then you'll be able to apply as soon as December 22nd, but we won't start reviewing applications until January 30th. So you'll have a good amount of time to review the projects and really put together your application. And then we have a final due date of February 10th. So not to be confusing, but we're going to start reviewing January 30th, just because in order to get through all the applications, we need to start reviewing before the final day, but you do have until February 10th. So you get yours in earlier, you'll just have eyes on it sooner. So moving on to the application instructions. When applying, you're able to choose up to 2 projects that you want to apply for. You don't have to apply to 2, but you can apply to 2. So if there's more than one that speaks to you, you have that maximum of 2. For each project you are applying towards, you will write a specific cover letter. This gives you a chance to make a connection between your skills, experience, and interests, and the needs and opportunities of the project. So be prepared also to submit your resume. So this is something you can have ready before December 22nd. You only need to attach one resume. You don't have to create a separate one for each project. And then also you'll need to provide contact information for 3 references. We do not require letters of recommendation. We just need their name, email, and phone number. And finally, we ask for a writing sample. So this is an opportunity to show off your communication skills. Something that is in the style of communication that would be required for the projects you're applying for is probably the best idea as well. So if you're applying to do a research project, then an academic piece of writing would be perfect. If you're applying for a community engagement outreach type of project, you might want to select something you've written for more of a public audience. And if you're applying for 2 different types of projects, there's still that 2-page limit for the writing sample, but you could submit a 1-page writing sample and then a 1-page writing sample if you want to show off 2 different versions of writing, but otherwise you can just submit 1 2-page writing sample. So those are all the things you will need to get ready for your application. So I have this other slide here that I think is really helpful because we ask that you put the content in order. So you can see here, it's cover letter 1, cover letter 2, if applicable, resume, references, and writing sample. So it's not too difficult. And then we just ask that you attach your documents all together in a PDF package with a file name that looks like the one you see listed here on the screen. First name underscore, middle name underscore, last name underscore 2023 as one PDF. If you do not have a middle name, you can just take that part out and be first name underscore, last name underscore 2023. And all of these instructions are on the website as well. So you don't have to memorize it now. And of course, like I mentioned, this is going to be put up on our website as well. So you can just pull it up, go into the presentation towards 35 minutes in, and see this slide as well. So here on the screen is the timeline. Once again, December 22nd, that is our goal. The projects will be posted and the Qualtrics application will be open for you to submit applications. January 30th, as mentioned, we'll begin to review the application submissions with a final deadline of February 10th for submission. After February 10th, we do our best to get through the applications and conduct all the interviews at the end of February, beginning of March. We hope to be able to reach out to everybody with offers or word on their application by mid-March. This is always a moving target because, as you can imagine, working with over 30 organizations in the interview process, it it can never be perfect, but we try our best. And then in terms of the program, it begins with orientation on May 30th and 31st. So that's 2 full days of orientation with us, which will be held virtually. And then the whole program fellowship term runs from May 30th to August 18th. We ask for a 400-hour commitment during that time. So that's equivalent of 10 full-time weeks over the course of almost 12 weeks. So there's a little bit of leeway in there for time off or whatever you may need. And I wanted to be sure to just highlight those 2 events that I mentioned earlier, the orientation, the launch, and the final presentations. They are required events. So if you have schedule conflicts with any of those dates, that will be something that you would need to resolve before accepting a fellowship, as those are not optional. And that's just not because they're being stern, but it's because they're integral parts of the program that set this experience apart. So those are times that we'll get together to learn about everyone else, what they're doing, and hopefully make your experience even better. So hopefully you'll be available for those dates. So we finally made it. We made it with a few extra minutes even for questions and answers. So please feel free to enter your questions in the chat portion of the Zoom. You can even raise your hand and I can call on you. And once again, we have Joe, Dovev, and Clara here to answer your questions. Everyone should have my email by now. You have the FAQ as well. So I'm going to stop sharing just so I can see your faces a little bit better too. Awesome. So let's see. I work full-time and I'm working towards my master's part-time. I just want to confirm that these are all full-time. There's no part-time options. Correct. This is a full-time program over the summer. Of course, many people are working on their master's, working on their PhD, and then they do this during the summer. But we ask that this is your focus for the summer, so you're not having another job at the same time. That's full-time. Of course, we know plenty of people are still maybe having small part-time jobs and side hustles. Of course, we understand that. Can I apply as an undergrad from another school? So unfortunately, undergrad positions are only for UNH students. So hopefully you'll be a post-baccalaureate soon, and then you can apply to the post-baccalaureate track when that applies to you. We'd love to have you come back then. Time flies, you'll be in post-bac before you know it. Do you provide accommodation? Oh, that's a great question. No, we don't. A lot of people have relocated over the years. Of course, since the pandemic, we've seen less relocation because things have become a little bit slightly more remote, but we definitely had multiple individuals relocate for their summer fellowships last summer. We always are happy. I know the host organizations are happy to help search for subleases. I think in the summer, a lot of times are easier to find subleases, especially in college towns, things like that. There's always really great options. And then you get that experience, that opportunity to experience another location for a summer. I highly recommend. I've done it before. So. All right, any other questions? You can raise your hand and unmute if you'd like as well. Questions for Clara, Joe, and Dovev. This is a unique chance that we get to hear from them. How many fellows are selected from post-baccalaureate? So we have the specific projects themselves that are listed as post-baccalaureate. So we hope to have about 35 projects for this whole summer. And it hasn't been decided how many will be post-bac. They're written for post-bac, but we just haven't chosen all of our projects yet. But you can imagine about 50% will be post-bac. So it is definitely a competitive program, but there's still a great opportunity for you to be the best one that the host organization chooses. Oh no, so many questions all of a sudden just came in.
Alexis, would it help if I asked them one by one?
Yes, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. So one of the questions was, is this fellowship geared towards people who want to go into academia or are currently in PhD or graduate programs?
That's a great question. So it's for all, it's for everyone. So There are plenty who are in graduate programs. That's an excellent addition to many graduate programs, especially ones that have the requirement for some sort of fellowship or internship during their program. So this fits nicely within that. But if you are a recent postbac, I highly encourage you to look into this because you're graduating, you're a senior, you're graduating, and this is a really unique 3-month opportunity that kind of fast tracks your career because it's not an entry-level position. You're taking ownership immediately and having a result at the end of 3 months. And then think of how great that's going to look on your resume and your portfolio and how many more jobs you can then apply for. But it was only 3 months. You didn't have to stick around for 2 years to give them all your time and effort, but instead you got this 3-month stint that elevated you to a new level and creates a lot of networking and partnership opportunities. Of course, you can make of it what you will. We have one of our fellows from last summer who met another organization and through the fellowship, so now they're working with them. We've had plenty of fellowship host orgs that see the high level work that you can provide to an organization and have decided to hire fellows rather than someone with even more experience perhaps because they know the dedication that you can provide. So I highly recommend the fellowship to anyone, even just a recent grad.
Thanks,
Recent
Alexis. And
postbac.
also like Grace has her hand raised.
Yes, Grace, go ahead. Thank you.
Hi. Yes, I just had a question regarding if the projects, when it's like fully uploaded, if they're going to mention if they can offer remotely, or is that something that we'll have to like investigate personally?
They'll be listed in the project description. So there'll be a section in the project description that will list it. So you'll have to click on each PDF project description, but it'll be right in there. Yes, good question. Thank you, Grace.
Thank you.
I saw some questions about accessibility in terms of in-person versus virtual versus hybrid. And I could just quickly answer that and say, you know, for those opportunities that are already hybrid or virtual, we would, encourage you to look at those first. And then if there were ones that were in person, we could talk about what accessibility needs there would be, but they would be for in person.
Right. Excellent. Thank you, Faina. Yes, we can reach out to our accessibility office here too if needed.
Alexis, what happens if you're not enrolled during the summer, if they're planning to finish their master's in the spring and start a PhD in the fall?
Oh, that's perfect. Yes, you're a post-baccalaureate, so perfect fit for the fellowship. We love to see it.
Great. And then if those students that are in that situation are also international students, then just be in touch with us directly. We'll want to make sure your associated university is helping to sponsor your internship or fellowship.
Yes. Oh, thank you, Faina. That's a really good question. That's a good question. If you're in between schools and an international student, yep, we just want to make sure of that. We've worked with many international offices to make it work. So, but they've always been currently enrolled. So, but we would be happy to try.
Let's see, for all of you, if you're looking for housing options at UNH in the summer, Maddie put a link to that. Thanks, Maddie.
Awesome, thank you.
There's a question about would we be paid on a weekly or bi-weekly basis or all at once at the end of the summer, just to help plan out housing costs. And then is preference given to UNH postbac applicants, or is it pretty equal regardless of where you come from?
Ooh, good question. So it's a bi-weekly basis, and the applications are not looked at depending on what school you're at, but more just looking at your application package. So what we do is when we're in application review, we pick out the top, 5-6 applicants, and we send them to the host organization, and they in turn look at those 6 applications and then figure out which 2 to 3 that they want to host interviews with. And then we host joint interviews where they'll have a UNH advisor present and then the mentor from the host organization. So you can do it. You've come to this information session, you have the tools, you know how to put together your best application. So we're definitely looking forward to reading them.
Awesome. Abigail said, you mentioned that this opportunity connects us to a great alumni network and helps us forge connections in the area. I love to hear that. Do past fellows have success putting down roots and staying in New Hampshire, working in the sustainability field?
Oh, that's a good one. Trying to think. Do you have any specific stories, Faina?
Looks like Clara might.
Claire?
That immediately makes me think of Mikey because I believe he was a sustainability fellow alum a year out from when I did it. And so Mikey was my mentor at Scrap. And he actually was able to go work with the New Hampshire Businesses for Social Responsibility following his fellowship, which when working at a startup, you definitely need kind of a side income at some points, because as a co-founder and like 23-year-old, just about scraping by. But I know that the connection with Faina and Fiona that he had have really carried over and gave that opportunity to him, just in case he needed to fall back on making some money while getting the startup going.
Awesome.
Right. Abigail, we have a LinkedIn group that we post a lot of different job openings. They're not just specific to New Hampshire, but the area. I interpreted your question as someone who maybe doesn't have New Hampshire roots and having that success for being there. I'm not originally from New Hampshire, so I can say that you can definitely put down roots. Joe, do you want to speak to that at all? Or
Yeah, I was gonna say, so I did this project a year after I came to New Hampshire, and the project definitely helped me make a lot of connections in the area, not just in New Hampshire, but across New England, just because that was the scale of our project. But yeah, I still tap into some of those connections now. It's been super helpful for my research, as well as kind of thinking beyond my degree and making some of those professional connections.
awesome. Thank you so much, Joe. I hope that answers your question, Abigail.
It looks like there's a question about how many fellows are selected for each project. So it would be one fellow per project, unless the organization asks for multiple fellows, which will have multiple project descriptions listed.
Yes, exactly.
Looking back to see if we missed any questions. Feel free to repost those if we've missed any.
Yes.
I do just have a
Oops. Sorry, I accidentally muted
No worries.
you.
No worries at all. I guess this would be kind of geared towards like the alum right now, but I know like for me, and I mean maybe other people as well, like the summer is kind of where I strive the hardest to make a lot of money. So I was just wondering for like other people, how if you like were able to do like a second job or like some side hustle like you mentioned. So if anybody wanted to touch on that, I was just curious.
I actually was able to do a side hustle. So again, coming from the UNH Sustainability Institute and Changemaker Collaborative, through my first semester in the B Impact Clinic, I worked with a company that was a small media group, and then through the fellowship opportunity was able to go to the B Corp conference that happened at UNH over the summer, where I happened to run into them again. And they asked me if I would like to do some work with them on marketing. And so I was able to have time to do that, as well as the 400 hours over the course of the summer does take place over 12 weeks. So that gave me a good amount of time to take a few days off. I think it ended up being like almost like 7 days off in total, or something around that number, where you have enough time to, if you needed to work on another thing for an entire day, you could take time off, and you're only ever expected to work Monday through Friday. It's never on the weekend. So if you wanted to have a weekend job or a remote job you could do at the nighttime, there's definitely time and flexibility for that.
Thank you, Claire.
Thank you, Claire. That was great. I see there's a question about the Zoom recording. Yes, even though you all attended, I know there's a lot more people who registered and asked me to send it to them because they couldn't attend. So I'll send it to you. Apologies for all the emails, but I definitely want to make sure everyone gets this recording. Any other questions? New Hampshire, if you're not local to New Hampshire is stunning during the summer. So if you do get the chance to relocate, highly recommend it for the summer. All right, excellent. Well, I don't see any more questions in the chat, so I don't want to take up any more of your time, but thank you so much for joining. A huge thank you to Claire, Joe, and Doveb for joining us. Thank you so much to Faina for being here and helping with the questions throughout the presentation and at the end. I really appreciate it. Everyone has my email, so reach out to me with any specific questions, and I look forward to reviewing your applications. Bye.